I'll just come right out and say it. You're cheating, aren't you? I finally blurted it out. Ben's eyes widened in shock, but after thinking for a moment while massaging his brow, he smirked. Caught me, huh? Well, yeah, I've been pretty free with my affections. Without any remorse, Ben continued. Oh, I've got something to tell you, too. He strode up to me, a sleazy grin on his face. Take good care of the sick kid, will ya? Huh? He's taken a liking to you, so make him happy. That's the least you can do. In exchange, I'll focus on my new flame. If Sally and I have a son, he'll eventually be the CEO. Essentially, Ben planned to have a child with Sally, the CEO's daughter. Sure, that would secure a safe future, considering the influence of the family. Such a pathetic, dependent strategy. Just then, the door slammed open, and in came Tom. Moving skillfully in his wheelchair, Tom approached Ben. Then, incredibly, he stood up and shouted. Mom, let's start our counterattack. I'm Sophia, 30 years old. Becoming a housewife after marriage, I'm now troubled about my child. Though I say my child, Tom is not blood-related. He's Ben's son from a previous marriage. He's a quiet kid. That's what Ben said when he brought Tom the day after our marriage. I knew Ben was divorced, but I had no idea he had a child, let alone one he was raising. Quiet or not? Confused, I didn't know how to react, but Ben nonchalantly replied. No, really, he's super quiet. He's only 3 but not much trouble. Looking at the 3-year-old Tom, he gazed back at me with curious eyes. His innocent face stirred mixed feelings in me. His name is Tom. Say hi to your new mom, Tom. Urged by Ben, Tom shyly looked at me. Mom. Well, it's a surprise, but that's how it is. I'm easily swayed, embarrassingly so. I could have objected if Tom wasn't there. But faced with his wide, curious eyes, I couldn't voice a single complaint to Ben. And so, I became a mother to a 3-year-old upon marriage. I wanted kids eventually, but never imagined skipping straight to motherhood. As Ben said, Tom was a low-maintenance child for a 3-year-old. He ate what was given and never threw tantrums. He was, in a word, a good kid. He really is quiet. Right? Well, I don't know much about it. Huh? According to Ben, his parents raised Tom before we got married. I couldn't possibly do childcare with my busy job. Is that so? But now, with you, Sophia, being unemployed, it's reassuring. Childcare was left to the grandparents, with Ben only seeing Tom on weekends. This earned me a lot of gratitude from my in-laws. We're old, you know. He's not unlovable, but it's been tough. Having Tom around sure messes with plans, huh? Plans? You know, kids get sick all the time, right? And when they make a fuss, it's a real headache. Gotta be mindful of the people around us. My in-laws nodded in agreement, looking like they've been through it all. Tom, sitting next to me, watched them expressionlessly. Apart from his illness, he didn't seem like the type to make a fuss. I was naive to think so. At first, he was probably wary of me, the new person in his life. That's why he was so well behaved. No, don't do that. It's dangerous. Yay! Cheese! 3-year-olds are more active than I thought. He'd bring a step stool to rummage through the fridge, fiddle with the stove knobs, and play in the bathtub with leftover water splashing everywhere. Today, he drew on the walls with a permanent marker. I reported this to Ben, exhausted, when he got home from work. He just responded nonchalantly, huh? I never thought childcare would be this tough. Hey, could you watch him this weekend? I really need to catch up on some housework. During the week, I couldn't take my eyes off Tom, and just managing the day's chores was all I could handle. It's been half a year since I moved into this house after getting married. And yet, there are still unpacked boxes. If Ben could watch him, I could focus on that. But Ben's response was shocking. Huh? Why should I? What? But you're Tom's. Huh? Just because you and Tom aren't blood related, you're going to shirk your childcare duties? I was speechless. Me, neglecting childcare? No one said that. I just wanted to do the chores I couldn't get to during the week and asked him to watch Tom for a day. I'm just asking you to spend a little time with him. That's ridiculous. Ben sighed heavily. You're unemployed, right? I'm the one working here. I'm supporting us, and you're talking nonsense. But you could help a little. It's your day off. That's the point. Why should I spend my day off tiring myself out with a kid? I married you for a reason, you know. What's that supposed to mean? You married me just to be a childcare provider? Ben looked like he regretted his words. He apologized, but in the end, he only played with Tom for an hour on Saturday morning. By the time I noticed, Ben had already left. Seriously, what a mess. Exhaling tiredly, I felt Tom grip my pinky finger. Mom, are you tired? You okay? Tom looked up at me with his chubby cheeks. Just a little. But I'm okay. Seeing you cheers me up. As I hugged him, saying hug, Tom let out a squeal of laughter. Taking care of the house and Tom every day is tough. I'm tired. But I've come to love Tom as my own child. That's when it happened. One day, I noticed something odd about Tom's walk and took him to the pediatrician. I was hoping it was just my overthinking. But the doctor's words were shocking. If this continues, he might lose the ability to walk. Tom might have a serious illness. As the doctor explained, my mind went blank. I wanted to consult with Ben right away, but couldn't reach him at work. Ben didn't come home until late that night, unreachable all the while. What's with all those calls, Sophia? I was at work. I couldn't deal with so many messages. This is what I get for marrying someone who doesn't work. Ben let out an exaggerated sigh. He had no idea. Tears welled up in my eyes involuntarily. Tom was at the hospital today. As I spoke with a trembling voice, Ben covered his mouth, his eyes wide in shock. What's that all about? The prognosis varies from person to person, so nothing's certain yet, but the doctor said there's a chance. He's hospitalized now for tests. Please, come with me to his next appointment. I asked him, feeling I couldn't handle it alone. Having Ben there would be a big support. Even if he's busy with work, this is an emergency. He could take a day off, right? But Ben said, I don't know about this. What? A rare disease? What are you talking about? My son can't be a failure. A failure? How can you say that? I went from sadness to shaking with anger. Ben frowned at me. It must be his mother's fault. Her bad genes. Damn it. Dumping him on me. I couldn't understand what he was saying. He wasn't worried about Tom, he was just making excuses. Damn it. I shouldn't have taken him in. Sophia, you're his mother, right? You handle it, I'm busy. He walked away to the bathroom, and I just stared at his back, stunned. I was filled with worry about what to do next and the resolve that I had to do it. From that day on, Ben started coming home late. Was it because he couldn't face reality, or just avoiding the trouble? Probably the latter. I decided not to expect anything from Ben. I had to protect Tom. Mom! Tom, good morning. I've missed you. Fortunately, thanks to Ben, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had the time. That was one thing to be grateful for. A week later, Tom was discharged from the hospital. I had Ben pick us up on the day of his discharge. He always knew how to put on a good front. Thank you so much. We'll work together as a family from now on. Please keep supporting us. To think a father who didn't even know his son's condition and was running from reality could say such things. I thanked everyone again and got into the car with Tom and Ben. After discharge, Tom was forced to live in a wheelchair. Seeing him bored every day, unable to run around, was heart-wrenching. Ben still came home late as usual. That's it. To cheer Tom up, I gave him a drawing set. I used to love drawing, and I was pretty good at it. Wow. Tom, you're great at drawing too. Really? Like Mom? Pleased to be praised, or maybe happy to be doing something I liked, Tom's eyes sparkled as he got lost in his drawing. In the blink of an eye, 4 years passed, and Tom turned 7. Life in a wheelchair seemed hard, but he appeared to be enjoying school, which was a relief. I tried to have conversations with Ben several times, but it seemed like he was avoiding them, and we couldn't talk it out. As I agonized over what to do, suddenly Ben's infidelity came to light. It was an unexpected message from a friend that broke the news. Sorry to bring this up so suddenly, but I saw your husband coming out of a motel with a young woman. Along with the message, she sent a few photos. Come to think of it, Ben hadn't come home since yesterday. I hadn't thought much of it, assuming he might have been on a business trip. As I continued to exchange messages with my friend, I could tell she was being really careful with her words. Soon after, she called me. Sophia, are you okay? Do you want me to come over? She sounded worried. Of course, she would be. She must have struggled with whether to tell me or not. But I wasn't as shocked as I felt I should be. In fact, I had been suspicious of Ben for a while now. He wasn't usually at a job that required lots of overtime. But recently he'd been coming home late into the night, sometimes not until the morning. And even though we slept in separate rooms, I'd heard him on the phone late at night, sounding happy. I'm fine, actually. This just clears things up for me. With this evidence, I could probably get an advantage in a divorce. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Thanks. After hanging up, I was suddenly overwhelmed with despair. It's one thing to suspect, but having it confirmed feels completely different. A dark feeling swirled in my chest. More than being upset about the infidelity itself, I was shocked that while I was struggling and worrying about Tom, crying over his condition, Ben was out enjoying himself with someone else. Thinking about it brought a different kind of tear to my eyes. Tom was very dear and beloved to me, but with that came an endless sense of responsibility and pressure. I tried not to let the strain show. But to think this was the outcome felt like a total betrayal. What should I do now? Pretend I don't know and keep living like this? Or confront him about the affair and get a divorce? Which option would be better for Tom? The more I thought about it, the more overwhelmed I became, and tears started to flow. I was so blurred by tears that I didn't notice Tom had come into the room. Mom, are you crying? Oh. Tom, it's just... Did Dad do something to you? Why would you think that? I made sure never to badmouth Ben in front of Tom, avoiding any negative talk about him. Because Dad doesn't like me, right? So I thought maybe he did something to you. I didn't want to tell you, but I saw Dad on a date with another woman. They looked happy. I saw them once. Tom said this, looking down. I hugged him tightly. He had been carrying this thought alone. This wasn't just my problem anymore. I had to face it. Do you like Dad, Tom? After a moment of hesitation, he answered timidly. I like you, Mom. I love you too, Tom. From that moment, I began to take steps towards divorce. I hired a detective agency to investigate the affair and gathered evidence to strengthen my case. Everything was prepared smoothly. Now, I just had to wait for the day Ben came back to have our final confrontation. It seemed he had been home a few times, but I had successfully avoided him. His belongings and bank books were still in the house, so he would have to come back eventually. That would be the time to talk. I was resolved. But sometimes, I waver in a fleeting moment. Is this really the right thing to do? I have no love left for Ben. I'm certain that I won't regret divorcing him. However, when I think of Tom, doubts arise. Tom and I are not related by blood. And that fact gnaws at me. I plan to take custody after the divorce, and I don't think Ben would object. But still, is it better for Tom to have a father, even one like Ben, in his life? Ben often flees the house, and now, he hasn't been home for many days. As long as Ben says nothing, there won't be a divorce. If we both remain silent, this life will continue. At least I won't have to worry about money. That's a great thing. That thought crossed my mind. Mom. Perhaps sensing my hesitation, Tom gripped my hand tightly. It's okay, Mom. I'm here with you. Despite being only 7, his reassuring words made me smile. That's right. Mom will do her best. Will you join me? Yes. 2 days later, in the dead of night, Ben returned home temporarily. We need to talk. The next day, when Ben finally woke up around noon, I started. Huh? Talk about what? Let me guess, it's gonna be something troublesome, right? I just got back and you're already on my case. Ben yawned loudly. I exhaled and looked him squarely in the eyes. I'll just come right out and say it. You're cheating, aren't you? Ben's eyes widened in shock, but after a moment of thought and massaging his brow, he smirked. Finally caught on, huh? Yeah, I've been pretty free with my affections. So, you admit it? Yeah, looks like you're planning to divorce me, right? If you've got the papers, just give them here. I'll sign them quickly. I didn't expect him to cling, but I certainly didn't expect such a smooth acceptance either. I was taken aback as Ben smiled even wider. You thought I'd be more upset, huh? Well, I certainly didn't expect you to admit it so readily. Yeah, well, I've got other prospects now. Is it because of the CEO's daughter? Wow, you've done your homework, Sophia. Ben feigned surprise and clapped his hands dramatically. Yeah, that's right. I met her through work. She's a real heiress, and said she'd pay to be with me. He seemed to be trying to escape. But I held back from pressing further. That's nice for you. Makes things easier for me too. But I have one thing I need to confirm. I have something to tell you too. Ben strode over to me with a scornful smile. Take good care of the sick kid, will ya? Huh? He's attached to you, so make him happy. I mean, that's the least you can do, right? In return, I'll focus on my new family. If I have a son with Sally, he'll be the future CEO. Essentially, Ben was planning to have a child with Sally, the CEO's daughter. Sure, that would secure a safe future. Such a pathetic, dependent strategy. Just then, the door burst open, and in came Tom. Moving skillfully in his wheelchair, he approached Ben. And then, incredibly, he stood up and shouted. Mom, let's start our counterattack. Ben was stunned, his mouth agape. Tom, weren't you unable to walk? Why are you standing? I worked hard. Indeed, Tom, once thought to never walk again, had diligently worked on his rehabilitation and could now take a few steps on his own. Well, that's good, isn't it? Ben said, trying to sound tough. Yes, it is. Thanks to you, he's been growing a lot. He even helped me with the divorce preparations. You didn't have to tell the kid that. Ben retorted, surprisingly wanting to impress in front of the child. He was slightly shaken. A great negative example, you are. Fine, I have the CEO's daughter with me. You and your failed family can settle for less. By the way, which CEO's daughter is Sally? Ben chuckled. Prepare to be shocked. Sally is the daughter of a construction CEO. A construction is one of the biggest companies around here. His pride in dating the CEO's daughter was understandable. But Ben was greatly mistaken about one key fact. Unaware. He bragged confidently. A construction. That's amazing. I'm so surprised. Right? Ben nodded. I smiled and said, I'm sorry, I didn't realize your thinking was like that, Ben. Huh? Confused, Ben asked what I meant. I mean, you see same-sex, not opposite sex, as your romantic interest. What? What are you talking about? Sally is a cute girl. Strange, because a construction CEO doesn't have a daughter. That's impossible. You're lying. Just wait and listen. Ben, trying to act tough but clearly panicking, took out his phone. Shaking, and called someone. Sally. He even switched the call to speakerphone. Now, the entire conversation is out in the open. Hey, Sally. Listen. I just heard something unbelievable. Sorry for asking this weird question, but you're a girl, right? Ben asked nervously. To which Sally casually replied. Oops, you finally found out. What? Ben's face was drained of color. He's ashen-faced. That can't be. But that time, there wasn't, you know. He was probably referring to the male symbol. Despite having a physical relationship, he couldn't believe she was a man. Sally answered calmly. Of course, I've already had surgery. I'm a girl in body and soul. Sally wasn't bothered by being exposed as a former man. Meanwhile, Ben was shocked. No way, Sally was a man. Hey, Ben, that's rude. I'm a girl at heart and soul. Shut up. Nonsense. You're a real man. Ben yelled at the phone. The living room fell silent. I felt a bit sorry for Sally on the other end of the phone, but soon realized it wasn't necessary. What? Ben, that's unbelievable. You said you loved me. You big liar. Forget about introducing you to my dad, and the headhunting offer is off the table. Goodbye. Wait, Sally. That's not what I... Sally hung up abruptly. Ben knelt, stunned. He had been expecting a rosy future with the CEO's daughter, only to find out she was the CEO's son. And due to his careless words, they broke up. Plus, as a married man who had cheated, Ben still had responsibilities to face. That's a shame, but it's your fault, Ben. She was a girl in her heart and soul. That's impossible. Regardless of now, if she was originally a man, she's a man. Oh, disgusting. I can't believe I was with someone like that. How you feel doesn't matter to me. What's important is, how are you going to pay the alimony? Ben whispered oh, and looked around helplessly. Sally, his lifeline, had just dumped him. Despite it being winter, sweat beaded on Ben's forehead and trickled down his cheek. Don't worry, I won't make you cry. But you'll have to pay child support properly. But I don't have any savings. I spent almost everything on Sally. What does that have to do with child support? Ben furrowed his brows, looking distressed. He remained seated, not trying to stand up. But then, as if struck by an idea, he exclaimed. Ongoing support would be better than a lump sum payment, right? What? I glared, and Ben looked up at me pleadingly. You're kind-hearted, Sophia. You were planning to take Tom even if we divorced, right? But think about it. You're unemployed and have no savings. Life isn't that easy. So what are you suggesting? Let's start over. Ben nodded seriously, as if it was the only option. That way, we can continue living as before, right? It's a win-win. Look, let's just call it even this time. I see. Can you keep your jokes just to your face? What? I asked Ben, who was frozen with a strained smile. I pointed my finger at him and continued. First of all, what do you mean by we're both to blame? Why am I being accused? You're the one who cheated and squandered our savings, not me. Don't just brush this off. But you're just a housewife with no significant qualifications, right? You won't find a job easily. It's better to start over with me. Don't worry about me. I've already found a job. What? Ben looked stunned. I said, stroking Tom's head. Thanks to Tom. What do you mean? My drawing videos are really popular. Tom said, showing his tablet to Ben with enthusiasm. On the screen were a young child's hands and a voice that was clumsy yet pleasant to hear. Along with warm, heartfelt drawings. Tom had started drawing when his illness was discovered at 3, preventing him from physical play. Out of concern, I suggested drawing, something I was passionate about in my childhood and was often praised for. Tom turned out to be even more talented than me. It wasn't just that he was good at drawing. His work had a unique style and flavor. And most importantly, he looked truly happy while drawing. Wanting to share this joy with others, I casually filmed it and posted it on social media with his face hidden. A celebrity noticed and shared Tom's drawing video, leading to its rapid spread. We even started earning ad revenue. My editing skills, initially just a hobby, improved as I uploaded videos daily. And now I can take on other people's video editing jobs. Tom's drawing videos are just a hobby, so if he ever wants to stop, we'll stop. But I plan to continue studying and working on editing. More jobs should come with time. Anyway, I don't need your concern. Why didn't you tell me Tom was earning that much? If I knew, I would have. I knew you'd get greedy and push Tom too hard. I didn't want that. Ben seemed hit by the truth. He clenched his back teeth, glaring at me resentfully. Besides, I spoke with my parents, and they're supporting us. I don't need your help, Ben. I have plenty of people I can rely on. But... Ben stood up shakily and grabbed Tom's shoulder. Tom, you want to live with your dad, right? The real family is with your dad, right? Tom stared at Ben, then shook his head and gently removed Ben's hand from his shoulder. I'm fine with just Mom. She's always been there to help me. When I was scared, upset, or happy, Mom was always there to listen. But Tom, we're blood related. We're the real family. But you ran away when I needed you. How can you call yourself a father? Faced with Tom's direct gaze, Ben recoils. Tom, but I care about you too. Stop it already. I'm already in elementary school. I don't even call you Dad anymore. I call Mom Mom. You didn't even know that, and you're claiming to be a father? But, Tom, you should have just stayed with Sally. Even if she's a man, it's rare to find someone who likes you. Ben had no comeback to Tom's blunt rejection. He finally seemed to give up, shoulders drooping in defeat. I knew if I showed any weakness, he'd try to gain sympathy, so Tom and I firmly refused and left the house. Then, please handle the rest through the lawyer, were my last words to Ben, who offered no response. Ben, learning that Tom was earning money, didn't back down easily and refused to divorce. Tom is my precious son. We share blood. Why should we live apart? That's absurd. Despite his previous lack of interest, he desperately tried to claim custody. Surprisingly, it was my in-laws who persuaded him. Ben, we heard everything from Tom. You hardly cared for him, left everything to Sophia, and were off cheating? How dare you claim any rights now? Exactly. Raising a child isn't easy. You shirked your responsibility onto Sophia. Now you scramble at the last minute? It's disgraceful. I was wrong about them. I thought they resented Tom. But they had been tirelessly caring for him. Tom even said, I'd like to see Grandpa and Grandma after the divorce. Thanks to their repeated persuasions, Ben finally agreed to the divorce. Of course, I demanded child support. Although it seemed like there were no savings, it was discovered that Ben had secretly stashed away money in an account. Thankfully, I was able to receive child support from there. My in-laws promised to take responsibility for supervising Ben. Interestingly, Sally later reported Ben to the CEO of a construction, and Ben became a target at the company. He found it difficult to stay and ended up resigning. Now, he's just getting by with part-time jobs. Tom and I are living happily together. His love for drawing is still very much alive. His cheerful demeanor while drawing is truly adorable. He's continuing with his rehabilitation. It's slow, but his legs are steadily improving. I make sure not to push him too hard, supporting him in his efforts. As for my video editing work, my dreams have actually changed since then. I've enrolled in a school to become a physical therapist. The motive is simple. The therapists who supported Tom in his efforts looked so admirable, and I found myself aspiring to be like them. I dream of helping children like Tom someday. Recently, people have been saying Tom and I look alike, even though we're not blood related. Tom says shyly, which I find so endearing. As his mother, I vow to support him until he's fully grown, though the thought of that day is bittersweet and fills me with mixed emotions.
Get out! You're not my daughter!
My mother is the one yelling in front of me, her voice so loud it's like she's spitting. My mother's face is red with anger as she shouts, holding a kitchen knife in each hand, the tips pointed at me.
I can't support a leech who doesn't even contribute to living expenses.
Contrary to my mother's accusation, I contribute over $2,500 monthly, more than half of my income, to our household. My mother knows this and I've explained it many times, but it seems nothing gets through to her now. There have been times before when my mother got angry and wouldn't listen, but I never thought she'd go as far as to bring out a knife. I carefully maintain a safe distance, trying not to provoke my mother further. My mother's cold voice reaches me.
I should never have given birth to you if you are going to be such a parasite.
My name is Emily, 29 years old. Thanks to my hard work, I now work as a systems engineer at a well-known major corporation. My interest in this field sparked from my father's influence. My father always loved computers. My father has loved machines since he was a child, and he was deeply moved the first time he saw a computer. I was excited back then, but the latest computers are incredible. Look, this one's so thin and the screen's so clear, he would say, smiling. Saying this with a smile, my father often took me, then a young girl, to electronics stores. He would take me to see the latest computer models and explain what was amazing about them. Watching my father's joyfully engage with computers, my own interest grew. Although generally a man of few words, he was always eager to teach me about computers. Eventually, I realized I was more proficient with computers than my peers, leading me to study in the College of Engineering. Without hesitation, I chose a career related to computers during my job search. Now, working mostly from home, I find my job enjoyable and have achieved notable results among my peers. The times I visit home and talk about work with my father are precious. Then, one day, my father collapsed. I received the call from my mother and rushed to the hospital.
Is Dad okay?
Your father suddenly collapsed, and I immediately called 911. As soon as we got to the hospital, they ran tests and said something about a subarachnoid hemorrhage. They told us he urgently needed surgery, and now he's in the operating room. I'm worried about what's gonna happen to our lives now.
Oh no, Dad!
I prayed for his safety while waiting. Several hours later, the doctor came out of the surgery room and updated us on my father's condition. The surgery was successful, but there might be some side effects on my father's arms and legs. Anyway, I'm just glad his life was saved. For the moment, I felt relieved. My mother, standing beside me, said, "What is Dad gonna do about work now? I'm worried whether he'll be able to work properly. If we lose our source of income, how am I supposed to live?" My mother was concerned about her future. It was always like that. My mother always thought of herself first. Seeing my mother like this made me feel sad all over again. During my father's hospital stay, I visited several times, and true to the doctor's words, my father seemed to have difficulty moving his limbs. Even with rigorous rehabilitation before discharge, it seemed the after-effects would remain. While in the hospital, my mother brought only the bare essentials for him and would leave quickly. My father decided to take early retirement, realizing that commuting to his current job was too time-consuming and his condition made it impossible to continue working. Also, since living alone was difficult and my father needed care due to his condition, I talked to my mother about it. "Dad's gonna have a hard time living alone with his condition, Mother. I hope you can help take care of him." I didn't really expect my mother to agree. "I'm too busy with my own things, I can't take care of him." My mother responded instantly, just like that. I felt disappointed. She was never the type to prioritize family since I was little. She was always the kind of person who put herself first. However, believing that she did have love for my father, I thought she would extend a helping hand to him in his current state. But even this time, my request for my mother's to help with my father's care was refused. I see, I understand. Then I'll move in and live there to take care of Dad myself.
That would be a big help. When can you come?
Since my job was primarily remote work, I figured I could balance it with caregiving as long as I had a computer and could do online meetings. I knew it would be a tough life balancing work and care, but I decided to move back to my parents' house and to live with them, for my beloved father. On the day I moved back, as I was packing my things, my mother approached me. Hey, about meals, make sure breakfast is ready by 7 a.m., okay? It'd be good to have healthy options like oatmeals and eggs, or salad, considering health. And keep the trash in small bags to avoid smells, I hate that. Oh, and remember to take out the trash on Mondays and Thursdays. And make sure to clean every day. Oh, I'm so glad you came back home. My mother had said she would take care of herself when I decided to move back, but she suddenly changed her attitude and started to push all the household chores onto me. However, despite my mother's demands, I noticed that the house was quite messy. It seemed my mother hadn't been doing much housework all this time. As expected, I ended up doing all the housework while my mother did nothing at all. Moreover, my mother was often out, living a carefree life. Now, I was busy with not just work and caregiving, but all the household chores too. My father, who had lost some weight, would say, "I'm sorry for being a burden. You have your work too," but I would just shake my head slowly and smile.
Don't apologize, Dad. It's not your fault. I'm glad to be back home. I enjoy talking with you.
When I told him this, my father seemed a bit relieved. Caring for my father wasn't as demanding as it could have been. He wasn't bedridden or unable to eat by himself. It was more about providing a little help with daily activities, so it wasn't too difficult, and I was happy to spend a lot of time with my father, like when I was a child. On the other hand, my mother, who did nothing, was always complaining. "Emily, your cooking is so bland and simple. Aren't you worried that Dad isn't getting enough nutrition? Shouldn't you add more dishes for your sick father?" Such an unfortunate daughter. Although it irked me to hear my mother criticize my cooking while quickly finishing her plate, I seriously considered her words when she brought up my father. Considering my father's age and smaller appetites, I thought it might be easier for him to eat if I served more small dishes instead of large platter meals. I increased the number of dishes, but my mother didn't say anything. However, a few days later, my mother complained again, "There are too many dishes lately. We're old, we can't eat that much. Don't you know how to save money, living alone all this time?" She said this while finishing her meal, so I couldn't help but respond. "It was you who told me to increase the number of dishes. I did it to make sure Dad doesn't get tired of the same food and to stimulate his appetite." My mother sighed heavily and stood up from the table.
What's with that tone? It's like you're doing it begrudgingly because I complained. How ungrateful. I can't believe it. It's because of your attitude, thinking every suggestion is a complaint, that you're still not married.
My mother, clearly expressing her anger with her whole body, stomped off towards the sofa in front of the TV. Of course, my mother left the dishes on the table as they were. Sitting heavily on the sofa, my mother looked at me and shouted, "Coffee." As if I would make it for my mother, I continued clearing the table, but then she threw a cushion at me.
Come on, make the coffee. You're mostly home, not even going to work, claiming you're taking care of your father, but you're probably just after his retirement money. And you can't even do the housework properly. How unreasonable. Enough already. How many times do I have to say it? I switched to remote work. I'm in meetings and working even when I'm in my room.
No matter how I explained it, my mother refused to understand anything about remote work. In my mother's eyes, I seemed to be an unfortunate child who came back home under the guise of caregiving, not contributing to the household expenses. How could my mother possibly think that I would withdraw my father's retirement money and spend it as I please, when I'm the one actually doing the caregiving? In the end, it's me who's taking care of my father, earning for my parents' living expenses, and doing all the household chores. I've been dealing with my mother's whims since I was young, but I've reached my limit. I feel bad for my father, but I just can't live with all three of us under the same roof. That's what I decided, and a few days later, I accompanied my father to his rehabilitation. My father's motivated, and though we can't expect dramatic improvements, it seems we're preventing any worsening. As we returned home, encouraged by the doctor to keep up the good work, we crossed paths with my mother rushing out of the house with a large bag. It's not unusual for my mother to leave the house or come back from department stores with lots of shopping, so I didn't think much of it. However, the next day, when I went to the closet for some shopping, I was shocked to find all my cherished bags and accessories gone. What? Why? I never wore them regularly or moved them, so they should have been there. Then I remembered my mother's hasty exit the day before and confronted her. "Mom, did you go into my room yesterday? What's this all of a sudden?" "It's my house, I can go into any room I want, can't I?" "Then what's with that bag?" I noticed she was holding a high-end brand bag. It was clearly something my mother had bought that day. "Where did you get the money for such expensive brand items?" "You're always telling me not to waste money." "You're right. You waste my money, so you compensate me." Confused by my mother's words, I frowned, and she started laughing cheerfully, as if in a great mood. "You had some really nice bags, you know. Just selling your bags and accessories got me a pretty penny." Unbelievably, my mother had sold my accessories without my permission and used the money for her own stuff. I was instantly infuriated and exclaimed, "What is that? Unbelievable. Stealing and then selling on your own, that's worse than a thief. Give them back, compensate me." Then, twisting her face in rage, my mother yelled, "I can't believe a daughter would talk back to her mother like this. When I was a child, we absolutely obeyed our parents. I worked for my parents, took care of them. I'm even taking care of your father. Do you just complain without doing anything?" She slammed her fist onto the table with full force. "Then why don't you help with Dad's care a bit? Huh, Mom? Do you remember ever taking care of him since I came back? Preparing his clothes? Helping him stand up from his chair? You don't even do that much, and you say you're taking care of him. Aren't you the one who's being taken care of in this house?" I slammed my hands on the table and glared at her. I had heard that my mom had a bad relationship with my paternal grandmother and suffered what we'd now call mistreatment by the mother-in-law. Regarding that, I had nothing to say, but I couldn't accept her claim of taking care of my father. My father had long given up on any care from my mother. My father still tried to engage her in small talk, discussing TV shows or stories he heard from friends at rehab. However, whenever my father started a conversation, my mother would quickly leave the room. How could my mother confidently claim to be taking care of him when she did nothing? Lost in thought, I slowly lifted my hands from the table. My mother turned her back to me without a word, heading to the kitchen. I sighed, thinking she was escaping the conversation, but to my surprise, my mother returned quickly. Approaching briskly, my mother held a kitchen knife in each hand. "Mom." Her face was redder than I'd ever seen. Trembling with anger, my mother shouted at me louder than I'd ever heard. "Get out of this house. You're just a parasite, living here for Dad's retirement money." In that moment, I realized none of my words had ever resonated with my mother. To my mother, no matter how much I cared for my mother or worked, I was nothing but a pest. "I'll move out as soon as I find a new place," I said, slowly backing away and maintaining distance. Seeing that my mother wasn't moving, I rushed to my room. I thought I wouldn't feel anything being rejected by such a strained relationship with my mother, but tears wouldn't stop. It wasn't because I was sad. It was because of intense anger. I immediately started taking action. From that day, I began preparing to move. I consulted a colleague at work who had a friend in real estate and received their help in finding a new place. Whenever I had free time, I packed my belongings into cardboard boxes. Finding a new home didn't take long. I was helped by a colleague. Once I was ready to move, I spoke with my dad. "Dad, can we talk for a minute?" "What's up?" I told my father everything my mother had done to me.
That's terrible. I had a slight idea about your mother's attitude, but since I was also a burden, I couldn't really say much. I'm sorry. Father, it's not your fault.
Actually, I've been thinking too. When I was well, I was almost entirely burdened with housework like cleaning, laundry, and cooking, treated like a housekeeper. Moreover, she always demanded money from me, and I was struggling. My father continued his story. "Even now, when I need care, it's always you taking care of me, and your mother doesn't even try to help. I'm deeply disappointed in her. So, I've been thinking about getting a divorce." "I see. You've had a hard time too, Dad." No, it's nothing compared to what you've been through." "Really, thank you."
For me, coming back home and being able to be with you has been the greatest joy.
That was my honest feeling. I wanted to be with my father, now and in the future. "Dad, I have something to discuss with you." Aware of his feelings towards my mother, I had a plan in mind. I shared it with him. A few days later, we decided to move out while my mother was away. My mother regularly left the house every Wednesday morning to attend her hula dance class, followed by lunch with friends, returning after 3 p.m. We arranged for the movers on a Wednesday morning, ensuring my mother wouldn't be there. We loaded our belongings onto the truck. Feeling a bit sad that this was my last time in this house, I got into a rented car. Not alone, but with my father. We had decided to move out and live together, both of us wanting to be away from my mother. In the car, my father said,
"Emily, are you sure about this? This could have been a good chance for you to be free from the life of taking care of me." "Don't say that, Dad. I want to live with you. That's my greatest happiness. Let's do our best together from now on."
"Thank you." The move was completed by mid-afternoon, and we had convenience store lunch boxes in our new home.
"Sorry, no time today, so it's just sandwich and chips."
"It's nostalgic. I used to eat these a lot before you came back."
"I never had time to cook because of work, and your mother always complained."
My father laughed. Such casual conversation made the simple meal feel delicious. Just as we were taking a break and starting to unpack, the phone rang. It was from my mother. I answered it, putting it on speaker mode so my father could hear. "Hello? Why have both of you suddenly disappeared?" I could tell from over the phone that my mother was freaking out. "Why are both Emily's and your father's belongings gone? What's going on?" "Dad and I decided to move out together. You told us to leave, remember? Is there a problem? You won't have to worry about caregiving or living expenses anymore."
"What am I supposed to do about my life without your father? I'm relying on his pension and retirement money. Where are you now?"
"Why don't you take care of yourself? We're already in our new place."
"I won't say where, but we bought a condo in a high-rise tower."
"What? A high-rise tower is for wealthy people, right? Don't joke around. There's no way you two can afford to live in a place like that." My mother clearly didn't believe me, but it was true. We had moved to a high-rise tower as close as possible to the hospital where my father was receiving treatment. "I think I've told you many times, I'm still working. You used to say it was just a hobby, but our company is quite big, and I've been there a long time, entrusted with significant responsibilities. You might not remember, but the $5,000 I've been depositing into the account every month since I came back was from me." "What? I thought that was Dad's pension." "The balance is high because of his retirement money, right? Dad never had a salary that would allow a monthly pension of $5,000. The retirement money was gone the next month. I saw the credit card statements. It was all spent on designer bags, so you must have used it all. That's why I've been supporting the household.
I don't know anything about that. You never told me.
Realizing it was pointless to explain further, I continued. It's not that you weren't told, you just didn't want to listen. I've told you many times. I also heard from Dad that you've always been out with friends every day, even when he was still working. You complained everywhere that he was too controlling because he managed the finances due to your extravagant spending. How can you only worry about money in such a situation?
Emily, you knew all this and deceived me. If you have that much money, come back home right now.
My mother probably saw her family as nothing more than a wallet. She didn't care about my father's condition, only about money. She managed the bank account carelessly and thought there was no problem spending freely on the credit card. I was amazed at how she could live her life like that. Fed up with our endless conversation, my father took over. I thought my words wouldn't reach you, but maybe Emily's would. It's no use. Thank you for everything. From now on, I won't interfere in whatever life you choose to live. Let's get a divorce.
Divorce? Wait, what about my life?
You'll be free to live your life without having to care for me. I'll send the divorce papers later, just sign them. She was truly a person who could only think of herself. I was stunned, but without saying anything more, my father hung up the phone.
Sorry for making you go through all this.
To my father, who said just that, I replied, "Thank you, Dad." The next day, we were going to the hospital for my father's appointment.
I never thought I'd be able to live somewhere so convenient. Thank you, Emily.
I thought it would be better for Dad to have an easier life. Plus, the prices in this area are much lower compared to downtown high-rise apartments, so it looks like we can live more comfortably. As we were chatting, we arrived at the hospital in about 10 minutes. When the automatic doors of the hospital's entrance opened, we were taken aback. Near the entrance, on a bench, sat my mother. She seemed to have been waiting for us since the morning. Spotting us, she stood up energetically and walked toward us.
What was all that about on the phone yesterday? I didn't know anything about your salary or that you and Dad were moving to a nice place. I won't allow it.
Suddenly, her hand reached out toward me. My mother lunged at me and said,
"Let me live in the high-rise tower too."
Even after all this, I was now beyond angry and just kept my cool. Why did she think speaking like this would make her wishes come true? Realizing she didn't think about our family at all made her seem pitiable. Dad and I decided this together. Just give up. I won't consider you my mother anymore. Thank you for everything, but now, let me live my own life.
I won't allow that.
I don't need your permission. Now let go of me. This is a hospital. If you continue this, I'll call the police. Then, regaining some composure, my mother looked around for the first time. Other patients were glancing over. Hospital staff, accompanied by security, were walking towards us. Hastily, my mother released her grip. Is everything okay? Without looking at the person who called out to her, my mother walked away as if to run away. Sorry for the disturbance. That was my mother. We had a little disagreement. I explained, watching her back as she left the hospital entrance. She seemed weaker than usual. For the next few days, my mother lingered around the hospital, searching for us. But she only acts tough with those she perceives as weaker. After being escorted out by security and scolded by other patients, she stopped showing up. That was the last time I saw my mother. Later, my father consulted a lawyer and began the divorce process. My mom was never keen on the divorce, and she was stubborn until the end, even demanding alimony. But when the lawyer explained what alimony was, she realized she wasn't entitled to any under her circumstance. She tried to cry her way out with the lawyer, who coolly referred her to community assistance and support centers. A few months after the hospital incident, the divorce was finalized. My father decided to sell our family home as he wouldn't be using it anymore. My mother strongly opposed this at first, but as soon as she realized she would get money from the sale, even after the divorce, she quickly changed her tune. The way she agreed with me with her hands raised, I could no longer believe that she was my mother. My father and I sighed at her relentless pursuit of money. After selling the house, we enjoyed a peaceful life. I was still busy with work, household chores, and caregiving, but caregiving services in our new area were much better, allowing me to work in the office more often. My father's condition was gradually worsening due to his age. We were considering a care facility as suggested by the doctor. One day, I received a call from an unknown number. Assuming it was work-related, I answered and heard my mother's voice. "Emily, I've almost run out of savings." Just a few months after receiving the money from the house sale, she was already running low. "So, give me some money, even a little. Consider it your final act of filial piety." "I have no money to give you anymore. Dad and I are living happily together. Please don't bother us anymore." "Bother? How dare you say that to your mother? After all I've done for you, giving me some money should be nothing for you, working at a good company. Show some gratitude. Don't contact me again." Tired of arguing, I hung up. After that, I blocked her number, but she kept calling, changing her number each time. It seems my mother, initially unaware of the call blocking feature, eventually realized that calling from a different phone would get through. I blocked each new number she called from, but it was a never-ending game of cat and mouse. As a result, I had to change my own number, but thankfully, that stopped the calls. Later, through mutual acquaintances, my father heard about my mother. She was living in a rundown apartment on the outskirts. My mother, who had never worked before, was now somehow managing to get by with part-time work. No longer able to afford her hobbies, she was just getting by. This was the kind of information that came to my ears. Maybe she's finally learning to live as a person. My father said. Perhaps it was my fault for spoiling her. Thinking that was the case, I murmured softly and asked my father, who sighed deeply. "Are you happy now, Dad?" Smiling at me, he replied. "Of course. Thank you, Emily. I'm sorry I caused you so much trouble." First of all, the fact that a child gets sick is a sign you're parenting all wrong. Emily always comes to my house unannounced every week and leaves her child with me. But today, it was difficult for me to take care of her child because my own kid was running a fever. "What are you doing? Just take care of her like you always do. You're usually just lounging around, so at least be useful for once. Right, don't you feel sorry for Kyle? Don't worry, my wife's got nothing else to do, she'll handle it." I finally lost my patience. Understood. I'm permanently taking my leave. I pulled Kyle into the house and made a call. "Mom? About that matter, I'm coming over right now." After a brief conversation, I grabbed the bags I had secretly prepared and headed for the door. "I'm going back to my parents' place." I wondered why I hadn't done this sooner. Every week as Saturday approached, I felt increasingly gloomy. Emily would drop off her mischievous child and go off somewhere. And Steve, just like her, would leave without offering any help. I had reached my limit. But today was different. They might be tough opponents, but I had a plan. They needed to experience more than the hardship I had endured. I'm Amy, 26 years old. I used to work at a publishing house, but now I'm on maternity leave. My husband, Steve, works in sales at a trading company. We're the same age and met while working part-time at a convenience store during our student days. The workplace had many people our age, and the staff got along very well. We often went out for drinks with like-minded colleagues, and naturally, Steve and I started dating. He was the epitome of a modern college student, juggling studies and part-time work effortlessly, and thoroughly enjoying his student life. To me, a relatively introverted college student, his lifestyle seemed exciting, and Steve appeared dazzling. I joined him for drinks at flashy bars I'd never been to before and on unfamiliar skiing trips, which were all great fun. After graduation, we both found jobs. Steve's hairstyle and dress code became more professional as he started working at a popular trading company among students. Meanwhile, I landed a job at my dream publishing house and gradually learned the ropes. We had a child about 2 years into our marriage. I was overjoyed, as we had started to feel anxious about not having a child yet. But then, an unexpected revelation. I was pregnant with twins. After waiting so long, 2 have come along, I thought. I felt twice as happy. Twin pregnancies are said to be hard, but the thought of how adorable the babies would be filled me with joy. Pregnancy was indeed challenging. My belly grew larger than usual, making standing up a struggle. I often nearly lost my balance. During this period, getting up involved leaning on a table and saying, "All right, here I go." Steve seemed to be enjoying his work and didn't help out at home at all. With my belly getting bigger by the day, I was struggling with both housework and my job. Once, when Steve brought home something I had forgotten to buy, I overly praised him and he seemed pleased. The next day, he was more helpful and I continued to praise him, thinking he had changed, but it didn't last long. After 3 days, Steve returned to his old ways, doing nothing at home. From then on, whenever I asked for help, he would dismiss it with a too much hassle. One day, Steve wanted new sneakers, so we went to the shopping center. I wasn't feeling well but couldn't refuse the rare shopping invite, so I pushed myself to go. As soon as we arrived, he said he needed the restroom, and I rested on a bench. "Hey, were you here?" "Wait in front of the restroom. I just wanted to sit and rest a bit." "You look old and uncool." "My belly is heavy, and it's hard." "I'll stand up now, just lend me a shoulder." "You're like an old lady." Steve offered his shoulder insensitively. And I, as usual, said all right, here I go, reaching for his shoulder to stand up. However, Steve, in a teasing manner, moved aside, withdrawing his support. I lost balance and fell. In that moment, I instinctively protected my belly, twisting as I hit the floor. The impact was severe. I had landed hard on the floor without breaking my fall. Steve just laughed loudly at me. Pathetic. "Can't you stand on your own?" Gradually, my pain subsided, but my ankle hurt more intensely. It seemed I had twisted it while protecting my belly. In pain, I lay there, but Steve just stood, doing nothing. A bystander, seeing this, helped me up. Still, my ankle didn't stop hurting. I wanted to rest in the car, but Steve wouldn't allow it. "It's too much hassle to go back to the parking lot. I'll look at sneakers, just wait here." He took a long time choosing and finally returned with a big bag. "My foot still hurts. Can you help me to the parking lot?" "What? Are you dumb? I'm carrying this heavy bag, and you can't even think of that?" Ignoring his own lack of consideration, Steve retorted sarcastically. I hobbled to the parking lot. The pain worsened on the way home. I wanted to stop at a hospital, but Steve refused. What if it was broken? Filled with anxiety, I got home and immediately cooled my foot and lay down. Steve, unaffected, jokingly asked, "What about dinner?" Unable to stand, I settled for instant noodles. "Can't you even stand in the kitchen?" Pathetic over a little joke. Boiling water is such a hassle." Steve grumbled, but there was nothing I could do. My foot hurt so much I couldn't stand up. The next day, I managed to get to the hospital by taxi. The examination revealed no fracture, which was a relief. I just needed to rest. But the pain persisted, making life difficult for a while. Finally, the long-awaited twins were born. Raising twins was even more challenging than the pregnancy. Everything required twice the effort. I needed double the baby supplies and had no time to rest. Time flew by. One Saturday afternoon, when the twins were about 5 months old, the doorbell rang while they were napping. It was Emily, a senior from my part-time job days. Steve came out of the room to greet her. oddly dressed in a suit on his day off. "Ah, I thought you'd be here around this time." There was something off about Steve's casual tone.
"Amy, I need you to take care of my child for a bit."
I was taken aback by the unexpected request.
"What? I didn't hear anything about this." "You're just idling around anyway, you don't have any plans. Deciding on the day is the same, right?"
Steve seemed to assume I had no other commitments.
"But I have twins here, and I can't take responsibility if something happens." "You're refusing my request? This is why ladies like you are no good."
Her tone reminded me of Emily's attitude when we were colleagues. Back then, she was the oldest part-timer. And never overlooked even minor mistakes. Especially with me, who had attended a prestigious school, she would always find fault, saying, "Ladies like you."
"You're on maternity leave and have time, right? If you're not earning, you should at least be useful." "I have plans later." "Just bring the child in."
A 3-year-old boy peeked out from behind Emily. Reluctantly, I took his hand and invited him in. Emily was carrying a large bag that looked like it could hold an overnight stay's worth of items. I thought it contained childcare items and reached out to take it.
"What are you doing?" "This is my stuff." "Where are the child's belongings?"
"He doesn't have any."
"Just let him play around."
Emily then said, "I'm heading out," and called Steve. He seemed ready and left immediately with car keys in hand. He said he was going to the office. Without any return time mentioned, I suddenly started caring for Emily's child, Kyle. Kyle was in his mischievous phase and seemed fascinated by the twins, constantly trying to touch them. I gently pushed his hand away but realized I had nothing to entertain a 3-year-old. No snacks or toys. But, having worked in a department creating picture books, I had plenty of those. "Kyle, let's read a book over there." I started reading to him, but Kyle didn't pay any attention. He wanted to play games. When I said we didn't have any, he threw a tantrum, crying loudly. The noise woke the twins, and soon, my house was in a state of panic. I spent a chaotic half-day, barely managing even to go to the bathroom. It was dark by the time Emily and Steve finally returned. Steve had driven them.
"The two of you together?
It's more efficient this way." Kyle ran to Emily. "Did you have fun, Kyle?" He shook his head. "You like mommy better. Let's go home and play games." Kyle's face lit up.
"Next time, make sure you have something Kyle likes."
Emily left with a stern voice.
"This place is a mess."
Kyle had made a mess of our house.
"He touched everything, and with the babies, I couldn't clean up." "Blaming the child? That's low. A mother should be able to handle this." "I'm not his mother." "What was today all about?"
Steve smirked. "Didn't you know?
Emily is my ex-girlfriend."
This was news to me.
"I dated her right before you, and since we parted amicably, we still help each other out."
I was shocked. It was okay that he dated someone from our friendly workplace. But maintaining contact and taking care of her child after marriage seemed inappropriate.
"When someone's in trouble, we help each other out. Then you should have taken care of him. Don't be cold. Are you going to ignore someone in need?"
The conversation with Steve got nowhere. That night, after putting the twins to bed, I was busy cleaning up the room and hardly had any rest. Since then, Emily kept dropping off Kyle every Saturday. Oddly, whenever she left, Steve would also be gone. He claimed, "I have tasks that can only be handled on Saturdays," but he never used to work on Saturdays before. Moreover, he always left in his car, even though he usually commuted by train, which was strange. About 6 months into Emily's visits, during the coldest period of the year, the twins both had fevers. Unaware or unconcerned about our situation, Emily still rang the doorbell that day.
"Please take care of Kyle today. You did buy his favorite snacks, right?"
By now, I had learned to prepare children's snacks with my own money. It hurt to spend every week, but it was necessary to prevent tantrums and crying. But today, the twins were ill.
"I'm sorry." The babies have fevers, and I can't risk Kyle catching it. Is that my problem? Are you suggesting I leave Kyle outside in the cold? Of course not. I can't even think of leaving a child outside on such a cold day.
Emily clicked her tongue in response.
Your parenting must be wrong if your kids are getting sick. Anyone's child can get sick. It's inevitable. You're talking back to me?
As we argued at the door, Steve, ready to leave, appeared.
What are you doing? Take care of him quickly like you always do. You're usually just loafing around, so be useful for once. Right, don't you feel sorry for Kyle? Don't worry, my wife Amy's got nothing else to do, she'll handle it.
I finally reached my breaking point.
Understood. I'm permanently taking my leave.
After pulling Kyle inside and making a call, I said,
Mom? About that matter, I'm coming over right now.
After a brief chat, I grabbed my secretly prepared bags and headed for the door.
Wait, where are you going? I'm going back to my parents' place.
What about the kids? Kyle, oblivious to this exchange, was already heading for the pile of snacks on the table.
Looks like Kyle wants to stay here. You take care of him. And don't forget about the twins. I can't do that. I managed for 6 months. You're a father, you should be able to do it.
With that, I left the house. My parents' house was only a 5-minute drive away. Using Steve's car, I headed to my parents' home after a long time. Steve's calls and messages kept coming, but I ignored all the notifications on my smartphone. In the evening, Steve and Emily came to my parents' house. After leaving Kyle with Steve, Emily had apparently gone to her original destination. Unable to move, Steve was stuck with the children. When Emily returned, they brought the twins and Kyle to my parents' house. They had to walk, and it seemed like a struggle. Steve was visibly exhausted from his first experience with childcare, while Emily was still impeccably dressed. I led the contrasting pair into the living room. Emily was the first to speak.
What was today about? I can't believe you defied me.
I expected Steve to chime in, but he just seemed utterly exhausted. And only vaguely nodded.
Emily, since you're being loud, let's get to the point. After you left Kyle with me and went out with Steve, I asked my parents to watch the kids and followed your car with the one from my house.
Steve looked shocked.
You did what, like a detective?
Yes, I wasn't just sitting back and taking it. I had suspected Steve and Emily of having an affair, but the reality was more complicated. Steve's car headed to the station, and surprisingly, only Emily got out there. Then Steve went straight to the office, as he said. I confirmed with his office that he did show up for work. They said he often left soon after arriving for his outside work. That day, Steve's car left the office quickly. A young woman was in the passenger seat, and they drove straight to a hotel in the entertainment district. I captured this in photos, clearly showing the car's license plate.
Steve, you've been cheating with someone from work.
When I showed the photo, Steve tried to grab my phone and destroy it. My parents stopped him. His reaction was proving everything.
Who's she? I honestly suspected Emily, but it's not her, is it? It's a junior from work. She came on to me, saying I'm the best man ever. She was totally smitten with me. How could I pass up such an opportunity as a man? So you wanted time with her, and Emily wanted to go out, your interests aligned. And taking care of her child made you owe her.
That's right. I sighed.
Cheating during my maternity leave, lying to me and everyone at work.
Steve stood up and yelled.
So what? You haven't paid any attention to me since the kids were born. You're not a child anymore, Steve. Shouldn't being a father be your priority? Father? Like I care. They're your kids. How can you say that? They're your children too. Stop your nonsense. Who do you think earns the money here? I'm on maternity leave. And not to mention, I used to earn more than you. We're struggling now because of my reduced income.
Steve was tapping the table edge. A habit when he's irritated. That sound was grating on my nerves. Fine. You can do as you please. Of course, I'll take custody of the children.
Custody? You mean?
Yes, we're getting divorced. It's only logical.
Wait, it was just a momentary lapse of judgment.
Steve suddenly tried to appease me, but I was unmoved.
A lapse of judgment? You think that's enough? I'll break it off with her.
Please do. But we're still getting divorced.
Why don't you understand?
Steve's self-centered reasoning was endless. I was exasperated. I don't hate the kids. I just wanted you to take care of them while spending time with me. You want the best of both worlds. That's unacceptable. I should definitely divorce you. I'll be demanding alimony and child support separately.
What? I don't want to pay that.
I calmly responded. If you refuse, that's fine. We'll discuss it with lawyers. The attorney fees will be added to the alimony. Steve was at a loss for words. I turned to Emily. So, I won't be able to take care of Kyle anymore.
That's troubling. I'm busy too.
Just then, there seemed to be someone at the door. I smiled to myself, knowing who it was. It was Emily's husband, Kevin. I had invited him. Kevin owns a famous restaurant in the area. Something Emily often boasted about. That's how I knew how to contact him quickly. Kevin had a soft demeanor typical of someone in the hospitality industry. But his eyes revealed an intelligent mind, used to managing a business.
What's going on here? He asked.
Emily, you go out every Saturday, right?
Yes. She said she's studying at school to get a qualification that'll help with work, leaving Kyle at a daycare.
Is that true, Emily? I mustered my sternest expression and fixed my gaze on Emily. Steve interjected. It's true. I've been taking her every week. She's been making an effort even after giving birth. Don't be jealous just because you do nothing. I'm asking Emily. After all, the daycare story is a lie.
What?
She's been leaving Kyle at my house every week, without even bringing any belongings for him. I have twin babies, and taking care of 3 kids has been very challenging. Kevin's face turned pale.
Then what happened to the money you said was for daycare fees?
Kevin, being a businessman, is used to managing money. He had trusted Emily with the household finances initially but took over due to her poor management. Consequently, Emily had limited money to spend freely. She must have been taking the supposed daycare fees as an allowance from Kevin. But the question arose. What was Emily using this weekly stash of money for?
What have you been doing every week, Emily? Don't tell me you're having an affair? No way, I've only ever been devoted to Kevin. I won't be fooled by your excuses. I've noticed things around the house changing. Someone else's influence, perhaps? Stop making baseless accusations.
When Emily swung her arm in frustration, her tea spilled, soaking her bag.
Oh no!
She exclaimed and hastily wiped her bag with her clothes hem, but its contents spilled out. Out came numerous pamphlets, rosaries, and various trinkets. Kevin looked through the pamphlets. Fortune-telling? What's all this? Indeed, the rosaries and such seemed focused on bringing good fortune. I got interested in fortune-telling during my pregnancy. I once won $1,000 on a lottery number a fortune teller gave me. Since then, I've been obsessed with fortune-telling and good luck charms. But after giving birth, I couldn't spend money freely or attend events. That's when I thought of this plan to let this woman handle childcare while I use my time and money effectively. You've been involved in such dubious things? Steve also seemed surprised by these developments. I always thought you were studying.
It's far more meaningful than studying. With this luck, we could become millionaires, live much more elegantly than now.
Kevin was speechless at this unexpected turn of events.
I'm appalled. You neglected our important son for such things? No, it's also for Kyle's sake. I even bought power stones that are supposed to make him smarter.
Emily replied, arranging fortune-telling goods on the table and beginning to explain their effects. It seemed that she wasn't deeply invested in any specific group, just trying anything that might work. Kevin, after a moment of contemplation, finally spoke up.
Amy, thank you for revealing this side of my wife. We need to have a serious discussion at home.
He then firmly grabbed Emily's arm and led her to the entrance. Despite her continuing to shout protests that no one paid attention to. After that, I decided to stay at my parents' house for a while. I had thought childcare would become more burdensome, but with my parents' help, it was actually more comfortable than before. In my spare time, I contacted Steve's company and revealed that his Saturday work was a lie and he was actually meeting his mistress. This exposed Steve for both lying about his work and having an affair in the office. Naturally, the company took strict action against him. Inside the company, rumors, some true, some exaggerated, made the atmosphere more unbearable for him and his mistress than the company's disciplinary measures. They lost credibility both inside and outside the company, making it impossible for them to work there anymore. Eventually, Steve called me.
Please, have mercy. I'm gonna lose my job. I just reported the facts to your company. You brought this upon yourself. I've reflected enough, so how about we start over?
I refuse. I can't trust you at all, I said and ruthlessly ended the call. I could tell Steve was suffering considerably. However, compared to the pain I had endured, his troubles seemed minor. He deserved to suffer more. Steve ended up leaving his job and couldn't stay in the same industry. Lacking the skills for other sectors due to his history of neglect and playfulness during his student days, he found himself in a difficult position. Now, he's burdened with the payment of alimony and leading a joyless life. Emily, on the other hand, was handed divorce papers by Kevin. Custody of Kyle went to Kevin, with her visitation rights being minimized. Around the same time, another issue surfaced. Emily was accused of workplace bullying at her part-time job. Her actions and speech had long been overbearing. In an environment dominated by student part-timers, Emily, significantly older, seemed to have used her age to assert undue authority. Her fed-up younger colleagues collectively complained about her, leading to complex negotiations. It appears the effects of her fortune-telling goods were non-existent, ironically leading to her downfall. As for myself, I'm planning to return to work next month. With the support of my parents, managing childcare seems achievable. Despite some nervousness due to my hiatus, I'm brimming with ideas for new picture books, particularly those themed around twins. The anticipation of getting back to work is overwhelming my concerns. My dream is to someday read the picture books I create to my own children.
I'll give the one with developmental disabilities to my mother-in-law,
Natalie said arrogantly, sparking feelings of hatred in me. She doesn't love her child. She sees her only as a tool to make money. My anger towards her peaked, and I decided to take her granddaughter away from her. Then I'll raise her. Under the condition she never involves herself with my granddaughter again, I took the child from Natalie and arranged for an adoption. 10 years later, Natalie regretted her decisions due to a certain event. I'm Scarlett, a proofreader by profession, which involves checking for errors in manuscripts and proofs for publishers. My husband is a well-known director with a versatile career. He has worked on anime projects, as well as a wide range of blockbuster films and horror movies. My husband and I, both creative souls, had one son. He grew up to be a fine young man, found a wonderful wife, and got married. They were blessed with children. But tragically, soon after his marriage, our son met with an unfortunate accident and never returned. Losing our only son plunged us into deep sorrow. It must have been even harder for his widow, Natalie. At just 33, she became a young widow, raising their 2 daughters alone. Moreover, her 2 daughters were twins, with the younger one showing tendencies of developmental disabilities. The younger sister's name is Luna and the older one is Aria. Initially, Luna's condition was diagnosed as mild, but as she grew, the symptoms became more evident. Now, she attends a special program class while both sisters go to the same elementary school. Raising a child with disabilities is no ordinary task. Especially considering that Natalie lost her husband early, she must be going through truly difficult days. Of course, my husband and I intend to fully support her in every way we can. She has a job, so when she can't look after the kids at night or similar times, we take care of our granddaughters. Yet, the hardships she faced after our son's death are immeasurable. I had great respect for her. Natalie truly cared for her children. Until she became deeply involved with a certain man. Her change started after meeting this man.
Mother-in-law, I'm taking Arya to piano lessons, so I'll drop off Luna with you now. I'll be there in about 5 minutes.
That was a sudden call, without any prior notice. Previously, Natalie used to contact us in advance, checking on our schedule and showing consideration. But lately, she's always sudden. Despite knowing piano class schedules in advance, she now calls out of the blue wanting to drop off kids, without any discussion. Both my husband and I have jobs. It's inconvenient when she keeps making these last-minute requests without any prior confirmation.
Natalie, I think it's great that you're so committed to Arya, but it's hard when you suddenly impose this on us every time.
Oh?
But aren't you off today? The calendar said you have every Tuesday off this month.
Maybe because she frequently brings the grandkids over, Natalie seems to know everything about our work and home life. It feels invasive, like we're being monitored. There are times when we have plans that can only be done on our days off. From now on, please stop dropping her off without any discussion. It's not that we don't want to help, but it's difficult without any prior consultation.
Okay, I got it. I'll be more careful from now on.
After a brief pause, Natalie replied in a languid tone. Along with her indifferent response, I heard a faint click of her tongue. And before I could respond, she unilaterally ended the call. Almost immediately, I heard the sound of Natalie's car pulling up to the driveway. Suppressing my dismay, I got up from the chair to head to the front door. Then, I overheard something unbelievable from the entrance.
Luna, just go on to Grandma's.
Natalie said commandingly to Luna. She was talking down to her from the doorway. I was shocked and speechless at her tone. Moreover, I only heard the door open once. Meaning Natalie didn't even bother to get out of the car, she just left Luna with a message and drove off again. In disbelief, I hurried to the entrance and found Luna standing there alone. Luna. Where's your mom? Where did she go? Luna, clueless about the situation, looked at me with a puzzled expression. Placing my hands on Luna's shoulders, I asked her what happened, but she just stared back at me with a puzzled look, not attempting to answer my question.
Hi, Grandma.
Luna greeted me. Although she's in elementary school, her speech development is delayed, and she can only manage 2-word sentences. She struggles to answer complex questions and gets tongue-tied under pressure. At this moment, unable to grasp my question's intent and contrary to my anxious feelings, Luna simply beamed at me with a charming smile, just looking and smiling sweetly. Luna, where did your mom go? To the store? Piano lessons? Which one? When speaking to Luna, I knew I had to keep my emotions in check. Getting too frantic could cause her to panic. I took a deep breath to calm myself and, showing my fists one after the other, devised a way for her to choose between 2 options. Thankfully, she seemed to understand the question and pointed to my right fist, surprising me with her response. Piano. With Arya and a man. A man? Hearing a word of interest, I impulsively asked Luna. Is that person Mom's friend? Arya's friend? No. He's Mom's boyfriend. Luna cheerfully laughed as she spoke, and my heart ached. Did Natalie leave one of her daughters behind to go to Arya's piano lesson with a new man? But why just leave Luna? The answer soon became clear. That night, when the piano lesson was over and it was time for Natalie to pick up Luna, she didn't show up at our house. Fortunately, the next day was Saturday, so there was no school, and it wasn't a problem to keep Luna, but it was still incredibly rude. Fortunately, tomorrow is Saturday and there's no school, so it's not a problem to look after Luna, but it's still incredibly rude. How could she just leave her daughter with us without any notice? What's going on with her? Repeatedly grumbling in my mind, I waited with Luna for Natalie to pick her up. At that time, I had no idea that Natalie's life was in such disarray. Hello, mother-in-law? I'm sorry, can you let Luna stay over tonight? Aria's come down with a fever. I don't want it to spread to Luna, so I need you to watch her. It was already past 9 p.m. We had finished bathing and feeding Luna, and were just waiting for Natalie to arrive when she called. When Natalie answered the phone, her voice showed no signs of panic, but she sounded apologetic. If I hadn't known the situation, I might not have doubted her words. However, having heard the earlier story from Luna, I couldn't easily believe Natalie's words. It's all right. We'll take care of her tonight. She must have noticed my hesitation in responding. My husband, who had been playing with Luna, turned to me with a stern expression and said that. I relayed the message to Natalie, agreeing to look after Luna for the night. I understand, but you knew about this much earlier, didn't you? How many hours has it been since the piano lesson ended? I'm so sorry. I just realized she was unwell when I went to pick her up. I'll be more careful next time. Her unapologetic response only fueled my anger. From now on, please make sure to contact us in advance. If you can't do that, we might not be able to take care of her in the future. Okay. Thank you so much. Natalie's response, in a cloyingly sweet voice, came through the phone before she abruptly ended the call. I was dumbfounded by her nonchalant attitude and returned to Luna and my husband, only to face a challenging situation. Luna, how about spending the night with Grandpa and Grandma? Mommy can't come to pick you up because she's taking care of Aria, who's sick. Maybe my way of explaining it wasn't the best. Luna had made up her mind to go home, so when that routine was disrupted, she became upset and lost her composure. Luna, in a state of panic, paced restlessly, crying and insisting she wanted to go home. She crouched down, trying to calm herself, but seemingly unable to switch her emotions. She sat and then stood repeatedly, eventually collapsing onto a nearby sofa and starting to cry loudly. I'm sorry, this is my fault. It's okay. Let's just be there for Luna now. We've faced similar situations before. When she was younger, her tantrums were more intense, sometimes becoming uncontrollable. She would lash out at us, bang her head against the wall, or slap her hands on the floor, a much worse state compared to now. As she grew, Luna seemed to mature, and her symptoms started to calm down. Now, she collapses on the sofa and continues to cry, a significant improvement. Whenever Luna is in this state, both my husband and I stay by her side. We never try to force our hands or do anything drastic. Luna uses our hands as a way to calm herself, wiping her own tears with them. It seems she finds comfort in touching a part of our body, in her own way. But we don't initiate it. Over the past 6 years, we've learned it's important to respond to Luna's own timing and needs. I'm sorry. Once calm, Luna always, for some reason, apologizes to us. She seems to think she'll be scolded for crying, gazing at us with tearful eyes and trembling, as if scared. We never imagined this behavior could be a result of how Natalie had treated her. We're not angry. Actually, I'm sorry, Luna. I shouldn't have said something that upset you. It's okay, it's okay. Though she might not understand my words, she could read my emotions. Seeing me kneeling in front of her, Luna gently stroked my hair. Despite her difficulties with words, she possesses such a kind heart. So what if she has a disability? It's simply a part of her unique character. I love this gentle side of her. While smiling at these thoughts, my husband suggested it was time to sleep, and Luna, now in bedtime mode, happily went with him to the bedroom. The next morning, Arya, with a grimace, and Natalie, in a slovenly attire, arrived. Thanks for last night. Arya's fever seems to have gone down after sleeping, which really helped. Natalie spoke in a manner as if she had a heart symbol at the end of her sentence, showing no remorse for the previous night. Arya looked irritable beside her, making me wonder what had happened. I was about to say something out of concern, but seeing her mother, Luna's face lit up and she rushed to embrace her, leaving me with no choice but to remain silent.
Mom, I'm home. Luna, welcome back, let's go home.
Natalie spoke to Luna as she hugged her. The moment I saw her expression, I felt something was off about her smile. It seemed like she briefly showed a look of indifference towards Luna. It was just for a split second, so I wasn't sure if it was certain. Maybe it was just my perception, influenced by the frustration I had accumulated from yesterday. Since I wasn't sure about my uneasy feeling, I couldn't bring myself to voice it. Well then, we'll come again. It was just as Natalie said those words and began leading Luna by the hand towards the car. At that moment, Arya, with a scowl on her face, handed me a letter.
Read this after we've gone home.
She whispered in a voice too low for Natalie to hear, surreptitiously passing the letter. Sensing something serious from her demeanor, I silently accepted the letter without asking further questions. After watching Natalie leave, I called my husband into the living room, and we decided to read the letter from Arya together. The contents were shocking. Mom changed after finding a new boyfriend. She's rarely home and gives him money. The prize money I won from piano competitions and the reward from concerts, she's giving it to him. She leaves Luna with you because he doesn't like Luna and finds her annoying. She thinks of me only as a tool to make money from piano. Soon, Mom might try to leave Luna with you permanently. Please help Luna. I'll be okay, but please look after Luna. Shocked by the unbelievable contents of the letter, I was left speechless. At the end of the letter, there was a contact that looked like a cell phone email address. I remembered that when Arya started elementary school, her piano talent blossomed, and Natalie mentioned her lessons becoming busier. Arya, even as a child, garnered media attention for her skill, and now she's a prodigy in the piano world, attracting nationwide attention. It's a dangerous world these days, so I decided to give her a cell phone. It seems normal for elementary students to have one now, so I thought it wouldn't be a problem. Natalie had said, a sensible concern for a parent of a child in the spotlight. I remember thinking how times have changed while listening to her. This address must be Arya's cell phone. Arya is quite smart. Writing down her cell phone address means she's not being monitored by Natalie in their communications. It must be safe to contact her. Believing that the email address belonged to Arya, I decided to get in touch. Good evening. Is this Arya's address? That's right. You read my letter. Please, help Luna. The reply came just after 10 p.m. Probably when she returned to her room for the night. From there, I exchanged several emails with Arya. Tell me what's going on in detail. Make sure to delete our email conversation. Of course. I wasn't really sick yesterday. It was all a lie so I could go to a guy's place. I was left at my piano friend's house, and Mom went out with this guy. He seems like a band member, and Mom's always chasing after him, using the money from my competitions to have fun with him. I don't really mind, but Luna is treated horribly at home by Mom. Luna doesn't understand and is always smiling, but after getting scolded, she cries a lot and becomes inconsolable. For Mom, that man is more important than us. If I give her money, she's in a good mood. But as long as Luna is around, Mom will continue to treat her terribly. The guy recently said to dump Luna with you. Maybe Luna would be happier with you than with us. So please, help Luna. I'll do anything for her. As I finished reading the email, I couldn't stop my tears. A young girl, only 6 years old, is this desperate to protect her sister. And she's the same age as my own child. Self-sacrifice doesn't seem to bother her. What a terrible mother to make such a young child feel this way.
What are you going to do? If things stay the same, you don't know what might happen to you too.
I'll be fine. As long as I can play the piano, Mom will need me. If it comes down to it, I'll threaten to quit piano. I want to get better at piano. If it means using those people to my advantage, I will. That man seems to have connections in the industry, so I'll use him as much as I can. So, don't worry about me. Instead, please look after Luna. I can't protect her on my own. Is she really just 6 years old? I was struck by the maturity in Aria's message, which made me question her age. But what lies ahead is uncertain.
Make sure you never push yourself too hard. Remember, you can always rely on us if things get tough. And be careful to keep in touch, so we don't lose contact.
With these promises, I agreed to help Aria. A month later, Natalie's thoughtless behavior continued, causing my husband and me a lot of stress. However, we were determined to prevent anything from happening to Luna. In fact, we started saying we wanted to take care of Luna ourselves, both to protect her and to keep my promise to Aria. It's to protect Luna and to fulfill my promise to Aria. One day, after about a month of this routine, Natalie came to our house with Luna, saying she had a favor to ask. Actually, I might be going abroad soon. What? My husband and I were both taken aback by this sudden news. Aria's piano teacher highly praises her talent and is considering introducing her to a famous instructor in Italy. If she succeeds there, she's guaranteed to become a pianist recognized worldwide. That's why I came to ask if you, as her grandparents, could take care of Luna. Taking Luna abroad with me is just impossible. Listening to Natalie's story, I couldn't help but be skeptical. I had not heard anything about this from Aria. There was no mention of going abroad, and I couldn't see why she would keep such important news a secret. I couldn't trust Natalie's words and glared at her suspiciously.
Can you take Luna to the living room? I want to talk to Natalie alone.
Perhaps reading my expression, my husband seemed to understand. He took Luna and left the living room. Tell me the truth. What? There's no way a decision like Aria going abroad would be made so suddenly, right? Also, when you left Luna with us last time, a friend of mine saw you walking with a man in the city. If you're going to keep making things up, I'll have to take appropriate action. What's really going on? Tell me the real reason. The story about my friend spotting her was a bluff. But I needed to shake her up to get the truth. My words tricked her, and she revealed her true nature. If you already knew everything, you should have said so earlier. I wouldn't have had to put on this act.
What?
I couldn't help but express my shock at her sudden change of attitude. Her words and demeanor were so unbelievable, I couldn't recognize her as the kind Natalie I once knew. To be clear, Luna is just in the way. Just saying she has a developmental disability significantly lowers my chances of remarrying. Aria does help offset that negative aspect a bit, but still, being a mother of a child with a disability means hardly anyone wants to be involved with me. So, for my and Aria's happiness, I want you to take care of Luna. I think Aria would be happier with a stepfather, don't you? It would be better for my mental health too. Natalie spoke nonchalantly, without any hint of remorse. I was speechless, unable to comprehend her words. Then she dropped another bombshell. Basically, I'm giving Luna, the one with developmental disabilities, to you. With Aria, I have enough. You are happy about having a grandchild, so it works out, right? She laughed off Luna as a useless burden and a financial strain. I couldn't recognize Natalie as a human being as she spoke these words with a laugh. Luna, still loving her as a mother, adored her despite the awful treatment. For Luna, her mother was everything. Despite the terrible treatment she received, she still loved her mother dearly. Luna's pure and earnest love for her mother made me furious at Natalie's attitude and words. But I didn't argue back. To us, Luna was the precious legacy of our beloved son. Better we take good care of her than leave her with such an irresponsible parent. After calming myself, I carefully considered my response to her words. Then I'll take care of her. In return, you'll never see Luna again. I'll tell her her mother passed away. For her sake, don't ever claim to be her mother or appear before her again. Fine, do whatever you want. I'm happy to get rid of such a useless child. Natalie stretched her arms as if relieved and did a big stretch towards the sky. Then, without saying anything to Luna, she left our house. Thus, Luna came to our home as an adopted child. The first few months were incredibly hard. Luna was distraught over the loss of her mother, causing a tremendous mental strain. We sought help from a doctor friend, brought in specialists to our home, and coordinated with a therapy center to support Luna intensively. Thankfully, a few months later, Luna started going back to school and was able to settle into a more calm daily life. Then, 10 years later, when Luna was a freshman in high school, an incident occurred. One afternoon, someone kept ringing our doorbell persistently. It was a holiday, and we were enjoying a rare family day at home. Who could it be, ringing the doorbell so many times? I wondered, annoyed by the rude visit as I headed to the door, looking through the peephole, my face contorted in shock. I know you're there. Come out. Give me back Luna, you thieving family. There stood Natalie, whom we had cut ties with 10 years ago, and probably the boyfriend she was rumored to be with. A flashy-looking man was with her. What's going on? Why is it so noisy at the front door? What should we do? Natalie has somehow found our house and has come for an unexpected visit. What? We had moved to change our lives after cutting ties with Natalie. We bought a prime property in the city due to our jobs, never expecting that she would find our address. My husband and I exchanged worried glances, wondering what to do. It's okay, Grandma, Grandpa. That's her, right? I wanted to settle things once and for all, so let her in. Luna is already 16 years old. Since then, her developmental disorder has become more manageable, and she's successfully learned to speak. Now, she can have normal conversations. She still has strong fixations and a tendency to immerse herself in things, typical of her condition, but these traits have helped her succeed in a certain business. You're late. If you're home, just let me in. Natalie, who was a different person when she lived with my eldest son, had completely changed. Once inside the house, she intimidated us with rough words and sat down on the sofa alongside the man, both of them side by side. She blatantly displayed her arrogance by crossing her arms and legs and glaring at us, clearly showing her displeasure. I don't like her attitude, but if I take her up on her provocation here, I'll be right where she wants me to be. Taking a deep breath to stay calm, we sat opposite her and asked what she wanted. There's no reason for us to let unrelated people into our home. What do you want now? We cut ties with you 10 years ago. Luna was sitting at a nearby workbench, engrossed in some writing. Fortunately, in this focused state, she didn't hear any of the surrounding noise or voices. She paid no attention to our argument, as we had told her to stay focused on her task. Watching Luna, Natalie chuckled slyly and snorted before making a shocking statement. It's simple. I've come to take Luna back. She's my daughter, so it's my right to have her back, isn't it? What is this woman talking about? Has she forgotten what she said 10 years ago? As I was at a loss for words at Natalie's absurd thinking, my husband, with a stern face, spoke in a low voice to her. You said you didn't want Luna and abandoned her, and as far as Luna knows, her mother is dead. That matter was supposed to be settled, wasn't it? That's just a verbal agreement. Besides, Luna knows I'm alive because of the letters, right? If her mother is alive, there's no reason for us to live apart, is there? Natalie retorted arrogantly, anger rising within me. The moment she realized Luna had a certain talent, she bombarded our house with letters, even going as far as Luna's school to make her presence known. Do you realize how much pain your selfish actions have caused Luna? For Luna, who had been told her mother was gone, Natalie's actions were a reckless stirring of her emotions. When she learned her mother was alive, she was so distraught she couldn't even go to school for a while. But thanks to her friends and a particular child, she managed to regain her composure and get back to her normal life.
I'm saying I'll take proper care of her now. So give me back Luna. Enough already.
Natalie snapped, as if to say, just hand her over quickly without any more talk. It was Luna herself who interrupted Natalie. She threw her pen, narrowly missing Natalie's face, and walked up to her, fists shaking with anger.
You never cared about me. I was just a nuisance to you when you wanted to spend time with that man, so you dumped me on Grandma and Grandpa, right? And now you pretend to be a mother? Don't make me laugh. I don't think of you as my mother at all, not even one bit.
We couldn't have imagined the young Luna speaking like this. No matter what her mother did, she always smiled and accepted everything, never showing any anger. But Luna had changed since living with us. She developed a richness of emotions, and thanks to therapy, her teachers, and friends at school, she learned how to express herself. She even learned to distinguish between right and wrong. She even honed a certain talent to spite and prove herself to her mother who abandoned her. There was no way she could forgive Natalie, who discarded her and moved on with a new man. However, Natalie was unaware that we knew all this about Luna. This was because she didn't realize that she had been betrayed by a certain child.
I figured you'd come around soon, greedy for money as you are. You're after the money I'm earning from my manga, aren't you?
You know I'm the author of that movie. At these words, a look of shock crossed Natalie's face. We had exposed Luna to various things after that day. Natalie, like she did with Arya, tried to get Luna into playing the piano, but it didn't seem to catch on with Luna. Natalie thought of giving up on Luna, who didn't bring in any extra money, and that was the real story behind this incident. We had heard about this situation from the child, so we tried to expand Luna's horizons and senses by letting her try various things. Anything she wanted to do, we embraced wholeheartedly, and we took her to any place she wished to visit. Perhaps because of our efforts, Luna blossomed in a particular talent. It was drawing. Her artistic sense and imagination were far beyond our expectations. My husband and I, both involved in the anime industry, were highly impressed by her work. On a whim, we showed it to a well-known author in the industry. A person so renowned that there's even an award named after them. With their endorsement, we showed Luna's manga to our company's editors, and it was immediately accepted. Her talent was so exceptional that her work was quickly turned into an anime and even a movie.
Now that I'm a successful manga artist, I make more money than Arya ever did. You thought you could use me, didn't you? Trying to pay off the money you spent on that guy, not to mention the gambling debts that have piled up. Too bad for you, I'm well aware of all your wrongdoings. As if I'd ever go back to a toxic parent like you now. Get out. My only family is my grandparents and my father.
Natalie was visibly shaken by Luna's unexpected words. How did Luna know everything? We hadn't even discussed these matters, so how did she find out? In the midst of confusion and agitation, the man next to her showed anger towards Luna after being called out.
You! How dare you talk like that to the mother who gave birth to you? Did I ask to be born? You brought me into this world, abandoned me, and now you come back when it suits you? I don't want a gold digger like you pretending to be a mother now. Who'd want to go back to a greedy woman like you? Get out! Your presence makes my skin crawl.
Natalie was speechless with shock and disbelief. The man beside her, furious, stood up, looking like he might attack Luna. Just as we stood up, feeling the need to intervene, a voice came from the living room entrance. If you do that, I'll show this video to the police and you'll be in jail before you know it. Are you okay with that? Turning towards the living room entrance, everyone's gaze fell upon Arya, who was supposed to be in Italy, standing there with her cell phone camera pointed towards us. Why is Arya here? Isn't she supposed to be in Italy? I asked my teacher to reschedule my lessons. I thought you might try to contact Luna and take her back while I was away. Good thing I've been in touch with Luna. Sure enough, you showed up at our grandparents' place. With that, Arya walked over to stand next to Luna, continuing to film the man in a protective gesture. Arya had been the one explaining everything to Luna and protecting her all this time. Arya continued to use the man next to Natalie, who was well-versed in the music industry. With his help, she might get to study with a renowned pianist abroad. She was willing to invest money to fulfill her dream. Additionally, Arya had a plan to leave Natalie's side when the time was right. This is my investment for making my dream come true, so it's not a hardship at all. Besides, those people are so clueless, they don't even know I've secretly opened a bank account with Grandma. The money I give them is just a fraction of it, so don't worry. Arya had started studying finance and law since entering middle school. Now, Arya had acquired an education beyond her age, and had spoken about her family situation to her agency, who were fully supportive. Thanks to this, Arya's bank account had enough savings for her to live independently. Once her dream was realized and she had a residence abroad, she considered Natalie and her company no longer necessary, and had told Luna she wanted to leave. I've been adopted by our grandparents, too.
What?
Natalie was visibly confused and caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events. The man next to her also seemed unprepared for this situation. He seemed to be in a panic, flustered, and was pressing Natalie, asking what they were going to do.
I've let you have your fill of the good life, so you must be satisfied by now, right? With me about to make it big, I can't have filth like you around. It's just too bothersome.
Both Arya and I have always considered ourselves motherless, so don't worry. Don't you dare show your face to us again. I've already discussed adoption with our grandparents. It's just your consent that's missing, but I doubt you'll agree, so I've already spoken to a lawyer.
I can't help but feel overjoyed at the thought of finally being able to live with Arya again. Well, I'll be living abroad, so we won't be able to meet often, but considering everything, it'll be fine, right? Now we can enjoy all sorts of things together again.
Watching the two of them happily chatting away, I couldn't help but smile, which made Natalie so furious that she reached out to grab my shirt.
It's you! You're the one who's been filling Arya's head with nonsense.
But Arya immediately pointed her camera at Natalie to protect me.
Don't get it twisted. I made this proposal to our grandparents of my own accord. You thought I was on your side and wouldn't suspect me. I've always been comforting you, haven't I? But not once did I ever consider you my mother. Our parents are our deceased father and our grandparents who still love us.
Betrayed by the two who had never defied her before, Natalie looked like it was the end of the world. She collapsed onto the sofa in a distraught state, seemingly unable to accept the reality of the situation. Luna has been seeking your love countless times. Seeing Natalie in such a pitiable state, I delivered the final, decisive words to her. You're the one who pushed her away while being obsessed with men. You have no right to call yourself a mother. Luna and Arya will be taken care of by my husband and me. You will never be allowed near them again. You're no longer their family. Upon hearing those words, Natalie broke down crying, repeatedly begging for Luna and Arya. But they refused to listen, insisting on her leaving, so my husband had to drive Natalie and the man away. They were so persistent that we threatened to call the police. Frightened, they finally left our home. Since then, Natalie and the man have visited our house several times, pleading to have the two girls returned. However, their excessive persistence disgusted Luna, leading her to report the two of them to the police. They received restraining order from the police, which ensures girls' safety. Thus, we successfully cut ties with Natalie. The lingering unease in our hearts cleared up, and Luna and Arya are now living freely and happily. Arya has become a world-famous pianist, met her destiny abroad, and is now performing concerts around the world with her violinist lover. As for Luna, her manga, which was turned into a movie, became a massive global hit. She had become a highly popular manga artist, renowned internationally as a creator of a work representative of American anime. My husband and I have also been involved in Luna's creations, and our family now works as one to support her life. My name is Nancy. I've been married for 7 years, but I've spent half of that time alone. The reason is that my husband Sam has been on a long-term business assignment. He's now in his 3rd year at this particular assignment. I feel it's about time he returned to the main office, but he mentioned that his period away might get extended. I work too, so I understand the need for his assignment. However, I do have some doubts about it. In the 1st year, he used to come home almost every month, but now he doesn't because the company won't cover his travel expenses. Even though he's allowed to cover expenses twice a year, he doesn't because he's too busy with work. When I offer to visit him, he says it would be inconvenient because he's so busy. It's strange, why would he refuse when his wife wants to visit? Then, one day, Sam suddenly came home.
It's a surprise! I wish you had told me you were coming.
I was overjoyed and jumped into his arms. But what he said next was shocking. I'm sorry, my mistress is pregnant. I want a divorce.
What? I don't understand.
I want a divorce.
Why?
My mistress is pregnant.
Wait a minute, so you're admitting you cheated? And that's okay?
Yes, that's right. I felt dizzy hearing him calmly confirm it. My mind went blank, and it took me a while to grasp that I had been betrayed. I was so upset I couldn't even stand, and I just sat down right there. But Sam just looked down at me without offering a hand to help me up.
So, you're saying I've been betrayed by you?
I didn't mean for it to happen. He looked pained as he handed me a divorce paper, with his name already on it. Oh, he's serious. And in the consent section, there was the name of a woman I didn't recognize.
Who is this?
My mistress. A divorce with the mistress consenting? That's ridiculous. Can a divorce paper even be like this? All I can think of are the happy times I've had with Sam. Despite those moments, why did he turn to someone else?
Why?
I was lonely. I hated being away on assignment. I wish you could have come with me.
But we decided this together, didn't we?
Yes, we did. That's why it's all my fault.
That's not fair, saying it's all your fault and I'm sorry. You can't just settle everything like that.
No matter what you say, I am at fault. I'm sorry.
What was I to you then?
My wife.
Yes, your wife. What does that mean to you? What was I as your wife?
I'm sorry. His only reply was I'm sorry, and I felt an urge to strike him. But hitting him wouldn't bring his feelings back. Instead, I'd just end up being labeled a hopeless woman in his eyes.
Didn't you enjoy being married to me?
It was fun, but I couldn't overcome the loneliness.
I was lonely too, but I never cheated.
I'm just weak. That's just cowardly. Planning to shoulder everything and act defiant? If you say that, I end up with nothing to say. So, I want a divorce.
How old is she?
34.
She's only a year younger than me.
I was lonely.
I've heard that already.
I'm sorry. It's my fault. He keeps repeating the same words. Why can't he say anything else? It's like there's nothing left inside him.
Is that why?
What do you mean?
So, you didn't come home because you wanted to spend time with her, even though you had travel expenses covered twice a year?
Yeah, that's right.
And when I said I'd visit, you said you were busy because you wanted to be with her?
That's right. I wanted to cherish the time with her.
How can you say that so brazenly? What kind of person are you?
A dry laugh welled up in me. I'm sorry, I'm the one at fault. I won't ask for forgiveness, but I want you to understand. She needs me.
Is the time you spend with her more important than our first trip together, our first wedding anniversary, and all the time we spent together?
Yeah. Something inside me snapped. If only he had denied it. But with just one yeah, he negated everything.
So, she's that important to you because you were lonely?
Yeah.
She filled the loneliness I felt. Oh, that's great. Since I have a job, I couldn't fill your loneliness.
Yeah, exactly.
You have your job, so I couldn't ask you to come with me. That's why it's my fault. I didn't make it clear, my bad. I see. So, I want a divorce. Please. Were you enduring that much loneliness? Yeah. So, you thought only you were suffering? Huh? Yeah. Okay. So that's why your feelings shifted to another woman, right?
My emotions were swirling with anger. Despite feeling so sad and lonely, the other side of me emerged.
I do feel sorry, but I still want a divorce.
I looked up at my husband Sam directly and said,
Nope. I won't divorce you. Why not? Just sign this, and you'll be free too? Only you want to be free, right? I'm fine as it is. You probably thought, given my personality, I'd understand if you said it's all your fault, and I'd agree divorce to make it easier for you, right? But unfortunately, this time it won't work that way. Why not? You're a kind woman, aren't you? Yes, I have been super kind. But I'm not always going to be, especially not this time. Absolutely no divorce. Why not? An affair will end eventually. I won't throw away 7 years just for that. I know you love me. But I don't feel the same way.
Do I really love him? Is that why I don't want a divorce? I don't think that's it. I was free when he wasn't around. Even when he was on assignment, I never felt lonely. Life with our young child was fulfilling.
She's pregnant with your child?
Seems so.
But I have a child here too. Who's more important to you? Her, of course.
Huh?
The child here is a girl. But over there, a boy is being born. A boy can take care of me in my old age. Children are not tools to be used for your care. I know, but that's idealistic. No matter what, we all age. A daughter won't be of use.
What is he saying?
You took me away from my parents too. That's why. That's why a daughter won't do it.
Seriously?
I always thought I didn't need a daughter. They just cost money. That's why I need a son. She's carrying the son I want.
You're the worst.
Yeah, I am. That's why let's get a divorce. I have to take responsibility as a man.
Responsibility.
What about your responsibility to me? You can live on your own.
What's that supposed to mean?
She can't live by herself.
I pushed the divorce papers back at him with a smile.
Are you really not going to divorce? Yeah, divorce isn't something you just decide on the spot. I can't just say, okay, let's divorce upon hearing about an affair. Plus, there's a child, right?
You're thinking too simply.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
I don't know how seriously you thought about this, but I'm not getting a divorce. I see, got it. I'll contact you again after a while. Think about it.
After saying this, my husband Sam left the divorce papers and walked out of the house. Left alone, I stared intently at the papers.
What a joke. As if I'm going to let it end with just I'm at fault. I'll make him realize.
The next day, I went straight to a private investigator and asked them to look into Sam's mistress. I thought it was crucial to know your enemy if you want to teach them a lesson. The investigation was completed in about 2 weeks. Smirking at the results, I sent Sam a message.
Hey, how's it going? How are things with your secret wife? Stop talking weird. Oh right, she's your open wife, isn't she? What do you want to say? I was just wondering if the child in her belly is really yours. What? Of course, it's my child. Are you making up silly fantasies because you're jealous? I hope it's just my imagination. Is your girlfriend really faithful to only you? Of course. You think she's seeing other men?
Bingo.
No way.
Confident in his response, I sent him a photo.
This is your mistress, right? Did you investigate?
Of course, I wanted to know the face of the person who's agreeing to the divorce. It's not surprising.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to divorce you and marry her officially.
She seems nice. I was surprised when I looked into her.
Right. I knew you'd say that.
Yes, a real catch. Quite the social climber.
What do you mean?
I sent him a second photo. It showed the mistress exiting a motel with a man who wasn't Sam.
What's this?
Surprised? That man isn't you.
Can you believe such a photo?
Oh, how about this one? The third photo was with another man. Also leaving a motel, closely snuggling up. She's amazing. She's been dating about 3 other men. She's in and out of motels daily, even with 2 or 3 men in a day. She should just make a career out of it. She's quite resilient.
No, it's a lie, a fake. She wouldn't do this.
Hard to believe, isn't it? I felt the same when I heard about your affair.
We're different.
Strange boast. By the way, I heard your company doesn't tolerate infidelity.
That's right. But if we're divorced, it's not infidelity.
We're not divorced yet.
Infidelity can lead to dismissal. You're not thinking of doing something silly, are you?
Silly? I wouldn't think of such a thing.
If you don't divorce me, and you expose my affair, it'll hurt you too.
Of course, I know. As long as we're married, I wouldn't do such a thing.
Right, you're a smart woman. You wouldn't do something foolish.
Yes, I am. But it depends on you.
Huh?
Really your child?
What? Annoying. Of course, it's my child.
Did you know DNA tests can be done during pregnancy?
Where's the need for that?
Even after seeing those photos, you're sure it's your child?
Of course. Photos can be faked. I trust her.
Okay. You might want to check, but if you're sure, fine. After ending the chat, I was amazed he still insisted it was his child. I decided then to make him truly face the consequences. A few days later, Sam called in a panic.
Hey! I've been fired from my job.
Oh, why?
They found out about my affair.
Really? How come?
Don't tell me, you.
What?
You didn't snitch on the company, did you?
Why would I do that? What's in it for me?
But if it wasn't for that...
Sam's fears were correct. After all, I was the one who reported him. If I'm going to drag him through hell, it has to be thorough. So, I took his job away from him. Look, don't you think it's obvious? A married man living with another woman. Plus, the company was even paying for homecoming travel expenses. Anyone would think it's infidelity. Maybe they questioned your ethics?
Is that what this is about?
You thought you wouldn't get caught?
I thought I was managing it well.
Silly. Bad deeds always get exposed.
What am I supposed to do now? With a child on the way and everything.
Tough, isn't it? You think the child is yours, right?
Of course, it's my child. How many times do you need me to say it?
Then you just have to do your best, right? Of course, you still need to provide living expenses for me too. We're not divorced yet.
You have a job.
That's a different matter. Since we're not divorced, it's important. I had to say it twice.
What am I supposed to do?
I don't know. But if it's really that hard, I guess I could give you a gift.
A gift?
Yeah. A gift that'll make you cry with joy.
What is it?
I'll divorce you.
What?
Really?
Then I don't have to send you living expenses, right?
Right, you won't need to pay living expenses. But I'll take a fair amount of child support. Yeah, I guess that can't be helped. And I'm keeping the house. So, even if you come back, you won't have a place to live. That's fine. I don't plan to come back anyway. She's from here, so we'll probably live here from now on. Great, that works for me. I'll send you the bill for child support, and make sure you pay it. All right, I got it. Once you pay, I'll file the divorce papers. All right. But I'm surprised you decided this. You really were the woman I loved. Sam was thrilled. Later, when I sent the bill for child support, Sam borrowed from consumer loan companies to pay it.
Hey, Nancy. That was a bit steep. But I paid for it.
It's only fair. You did that much. But you only paid the partial amount, right?
Of course, I paid it all.
I said I wanted the child support in one lump sum.
What? That's impossible.
Why? You said you'd pay. If you don't, I won't divorce you. Would you rather pay $2,000 every month forever?
Okay. I'll do it if you divorce me.
Then, please do. So, Sam borrowed from several loan companies to pay me. Of course, he kept it a secret from her. Now, the divorce is finalized. And, exulting in the prospect of marrying her, my ex-husband Sam was overjoyed. And, as a final revenge, I mailed Sam the documents and photos from the private investigator.
Hey, what's this?
Hello, Sam. How's life post-divorce?
What's this about?
What do you mean?
You sent me documents from the private investigator.
Oh, the stuff I had researched. I thought I'd send it to you since I don't need it anymore.
This says she's in debt for $200,000.
Yeah, she's quite the debtor.
And she has 3 kids?
Yes, 3 girls. It's going to be lively. Though, apparently, she doesn't know who the father of any of them is.
I don't need daughters.
That's too bad. They're the children of the woman you love.
So, is this true? She's currently being taken care of by her mom, but she'll take all of them once we're married?
Seems like it. She's their mother, after all.
I've already registered for marriage.
Congratulations. Happy wedding. That's just perfect.
It's not perfect.
Why not?
I didn't know she had such a debt. I'm already in debt for $264,000 for your child support, and now I have to deal with her debt and 3 kids.
You're going to be a father of 4. No time for affairs now.
I can't handle 4 kids with all this debt. What should I do?
Debt goes away if you steadily pay it off. Might take decades. As for the kids, they're your beloved's children. You have to accept them.
If I knew it would be this hard, I wouldn't have gotten married. I should have stayed married to you and continued our affair.
I couldn't believe he could say such a thing so casually. This man is truly despicable. To think he could say he should have continued an affair while married. Oh, by the way, her mother is sick, right?
What? With what?
Seems like it's quite serious. She's been looking after the kids, after all. That must have been tough. She's been working hard for her grandkids, so you better take good care of her. She seems to be short on money too.
What? No way.
It's all in the report.
Ugh, yeah, it's true. Does this mean I'll eventually have to take care of her too?
Looks like it. Oh boy, what a handful. Better have a good talk.
How can I bring that up now? We just got married, this will totally ruin our newlywed bliss.
Right. And you're unemployed now.
Damn it.
Sam, now jobless, tried to find work but could only get part-time gigs. The place he moved to was quite rural. Not many job opportunities for a 40-year-old like him. Still, wanting to enjoy his newlywed life, he kept all these issues under wraps until, what is this? He exploded upon seeing his newborn child.
Hey! Why are you yelling? This is a hospital.
You!
This child clearly isn't mine. It's just different genes. You've been calling yourself this child's dad all this time. That's good enough. Different genes mean it's another man's child. Don't fuss about it. It's just that one of the guys I played with happened to be black.
Played with?
You mean you were seeing a black guy while with me?
Yes, just like you were doing. You were seeing me while having a wife.
I was?
Of course. Just like you, I can't be blamed.
But a black guy?
Can't help it. I was seeing 5 guys. No way to know which one it would be.
That's... What kind of woman are you?
What kind?
I just love my freedom. Freedom? You call this freedom?
It's no big deal. I didn't expect you to make such a fuss over something so small.
Small, you say?
That's when Sam let it all out.
Is it true you're in debt for $200,000?
Yes, it is.
What's all that money for?
Not all men are rich. Plus, I wanted to look good when going out.
So, it's all just to show off?
Yes, obviously. You approached me seeing how I look. Who would be interested in a poorly dressed woman?
Ugh.
Realizing she was right, Sam was at a loss for words. Then, he brought up the children, and just then, her mother arrived with the kids.
Maria, congratulations on the birth.
Oh, Mom.
Sam, congratulations. Since we're officially married and you've had the baby, I thought I'd bring these kids back. I've been feeling worse lately, and might have to be hospitalized soon.
That bad?
Yes. But I don't have much money. So, Sam, I'm counting on you.
Counting on me for what? I'll take care of the kids, and in return, you'll have to take care of my mother. I thought her old age was far off, but she's frail. We might need to gather money for surgery.
No way! How can I handle all these kids and your mother too?
She's my mom, you have to take care of her. I won't forgive you if you neglect her.
This is crazy! It's like a scam! $200,000 in debt and 3 secret children? And now a black baby? What kind of woman are you? And a frail mother-in-law too?
I think it was then. At the perfect moment, I messaged her. Nice to meet you. I'm Sam's ex-wife, Nancy. Just to let you know, your husband has a debt of $264,000. He's been fired and is working part-time now. Tough life, right? Bye. What's this?
Huh? Who's it from?
Your ex-wife.
Hey, what's this $264,000 debt? You called me a scammer, what's this about? You have more debt than me, and I didn't even know?
Sam got yelled at by her, but he yelled back, turning the hospital room into a battlefield. As for me, I sent the message and looked at the photo in front of me. It was a photo of her leaving a hotel with a black man. I kept this one to myself, not sending it to Sam. Why? Because I wanted him to see the child with his own eyes. After that, Sam's debt, including his current wife's share, ballooned to $464,000. Weighed down by the debt, Sam seemed to be in deep despair. Working as a couple might have been a solution, but it wasn't that simple. They had a total of 4 young children. Maria, the wife, apparently couldn't afford to play around anymore and was looking after the children as a mother should. So, even when Sam asked her to work, she would only say, "How can I work when the kids are this young? Don't you think it's pitiful for the kids? I won't work until they grow up." Maria seemed to be quite a strong woman. Moreover, they had to live with her frail mother, further straining their finances. Yet, even from her mother, they couldn't get living expenses, let alone food money. Desperate, Sam contacted me with a feeble voice, begging for help. Of course, I just laughed it off as a joke, but the reality was that they were crammed into a tiny apartment, a family of 7. Sam, harried by his wife to work, juggled multiple part-time jobs and could hardly get any sleep at home, almost like he was back on a business trip. He would contact me occasionally, worn out, repeating how much he hated it. As for me, I had grown accustomed to life without a husband and didn't have a single problem. The large sum of money I received ensured my peace of mind. Now, it's just my child and me, spending our days in tranquility.